With Moses' objection addressed, he prepares for his return to Egypt. With a blessing from Jethro and an assurance from God that the Pharaoh who wanted to kill him was dead, he begins the journey back. But Moses has an important lesson to learn on the way. At a roadside stop along the way, his journey is interrupted by God seeking to kill his firstborn son who hasn't yet been circumcised. How could Moses have allowed this? Moses was supposed to fulfill the covenant by leading God's firstborn son out of Egypt, yet still he hadn't got his own house in order. Zipporah quickly acts to bring the whole family under the covenant and to save anyone from dying that day. The same, though, won't be said for Pharaoh's firstborn son later. Moses may have continued the rest of the way on his own, leaving his family to return to the safety of Midian. On the way, we witness a joyful reunion with his brother Aaron. And when they arrive back in Egypt together, the signs convince the leaders of Israel that God has indeed come to take them out, and everyone is rejoicing. But it doesn't last. Pharaoh isn't so responsive. He rejects their request to let Israel go, and he claims to not even know who Yahweh is. This key phrase flies in the face of God, who sets about to make him and all the world know the name of Yahweh and to never forget it. But first, Pharaoh makes the bondage even harder for the Hebrews, turning them on Moses and Aaron and stalling the movement in its tracks. Moses is once again discouraged and he turns to God. He says this has only made things worse, and he cries to God. God encourages Moses with a 7-part promise, assuring him that God's covenant cannot be broken. 7 times he says, "I will," referring to bringing Israel out of Egypt. Again, though, Moses is rejected by Israel, and again he objects to God, saying that Pharaoh will not listen to him if his own people, Israel, won't. Finally, God ends all of Moses' objections with a command. No longer is there any room for negotiation. God essentially says, "I'm not asking you to do this, Moses. I'm telling you, I will bring Israel out by your hand." And to the credit of Moses and Aaron, they never object again. In chapter 7, verse 6, they obediently do all that Yahweh has commanded them without hesitation. First stop, Pharaoh's palace.
The most important theme of Exodus 1 to 15 is, "They shall know that I am Yahweh," first appearing in chapter 6. It was set up by Pharaoh's claim that he didn't even know who Yahweh was in chapter 5. Look through each occurrence and note that it was the entire purpose of the Exodus, so that everyone knows God. Have a look at 2 Samuel 7 verse 23 and find the link.
We'll leave you with 2 tricky questions to have a think about. Firstly, what is going on with Zipporah and the circumcision event in chapter 4, verse 23 to 26? Secondly, why is a partially complete genealogy of some of Israel's leaders placed in chapter 6, verse 14 to 27, right in the middle of a conversation with God?
God makes 7 "I will" statements in chapter 6 verses 6 to 8. Colour in each time "I will" occurs and number them from 1 to 7. This section is bookended by the statement "I am Yahweh," which you can also colour in. Don't forget to colour in the theme of "They shall know that I am Yahweh" as well.
This section is all about the response of each group of people: Jethro, Zipporah, Aaron, Israel, Pharaoh, and Moses. When the message of salvation comes to you, what is your response? When you bring the message of salvation to others, does their response dishearten you? Be comforted and inspired that God has made you a promise which He will keep.
God has made promises to us about our salvation from this world, about His kingdom, about eternal life. Pray to God and tell Him how confident you are in those promises. If you have doubts, follow the example of Moses and tell God about them, because He knows how to help you through them. Sharing your doubts with God is the first step to fixing them.